so we'll go ahead and get started. You can lie down on your back. And once you're here lying down on your back, I recommend that you keep your knees bent here. Perhaps bring the feet out a little bit wider and knock the knees into touch one another. Either placing the hands on the belly or just by the sides. This is called Constructive Rest Pose. It's a really nice position to take pressure off the lower back. Perhaps closing the eyes here. And taking some deep breaths in and out through the nose. With every inhale, feel the belly expand. With every exhale, feel the navel draw towards the spine. Continuing just like this, noticing the belly rise and fall with the inhales and exhales. And allow the body to really relax down into the mat here. So drop and release the weight of the head down into the floor. Relax the shoulders. Relaxing any areas of the body where you're unnecessarily clenching or holding on to any stress from the day. So softening the space between the eyebrows, unclenching the jaw. Perhaps deepening the breath here, feeling not only just the belly expand, but also the ribs expand with the inhales. And rib cage knits back in and belly button draws towards the spine with the exhales. A few more deep breaths here. As you're ready, you can gently open the eyes, and we'll start to rock the knees from side to side here. So you can allow both knees to fall over to the left and then over to the right. Maybe even taking the arms out wide to a T position. You can even move the head, neck, and gaze in the opposite direction of the legs. And just notice how that gentle rotation feels through the pelvis, through the low back. Good, we'll bring the knees back to center. Walk the feet in so they're not as wide, they're a little bit more narrow, perhaps in line with the sits bones. Kneecaps pointing up to the ceiling, and we'll do a few pelvic tilts here. This is a super subtle movement to reset the pelvis and the low back. You'll curve the low back away with the inhales, and press the low back down flat into the floor with the exhales. So again, it's super subtle. You're not lifting the hips off of the ground, or at least not yet. This tilt of the pelvis forward and back, curving the low back away from the floor on the inhales, and press it down flat into the ground on the exhales. Still feeling that expansion and contraction of the belly as you move here. Good, we'll come back to a neutral position in the pelvis, arms by the sides, palms face down. Now we'll actually lift the hips off of the ground for a bridge pose. So as you're ready, press the feet flat down into the floor, pick up the hips, low back, maybe even the mid back up off of the ground, pressing the front of the pelvis toward the ceiling. Engage the glutes here, the butt muscles, squeezing them towards one another. With the exhale, relax the glutes, lower the hips back down towards the mat. We'll do that a few more times. Inhale, lift the hips up, engage the glutes. With the exhale, relax the glutes as you lower the hips down. A few more, just waking up the glutes, backs of the legs, introducing a bit of movement into the rest of the spine as well. Good, we'll do one more of these here. Great, and from here you can hug the knees in towards you, picking the feet up off of the mat. Wrap the arms around the legs, squeeze the knees in towards the chest, bringing some flexion into the hips, the low back. Maybe place one hand on each kneecap here, and you can rock side to side, gently massaging the back. And then from here, drawing some circles through the hips, so drawing the knees wide apart from one another, and then back together in a big circular motion. Drawing the knees wide apart and back together, forming 2 semicircles on each side. An opposite direction for a few rounds as well, just noticing how the hips feel today. Good, we'll hug just the right knee in now. And you have 2 options with the left leg. You can either keep the knee bent and the foot flat on the floor, or you can extend that leg out completely straight. Hugging the right knee in towards the chest, maybe the same side armpit, noticing how that feels. Still breathing through the belly here. If you'd like to add a bit of movement here, you could rock the knee from side to side, or maybe even create some gentle circles with that hip. Good. We'll clasp the hands behind kind of the back of the thigh of that right leg. Start to press the heel toward the ceiling, trying not to force the knee into too much extension. If the hamstrings and calves are tight here, feel free to keep as much of a bend in that knee as you need to. Noticing how the stretch feels through the back of the leg. Start to wake up the toes and the ankle as well. You can point the toes toward the ceiling and then flex the toes toward the shin bone. Noticing how sensation through the back of the leg changes as you move the ankle. Then go ahead and circle out that ankle a few times as well, in both directions. Good. From here, you'll keep that leg at a 90-degree angle more or less, and bring the arms by the sides, maybe grabbing a hold of the mat on either side with the hands. We'll do a little bit of an active mobility challenge for that right hip, as well as a bit of a core challenge at the same time. So what you'll do here is take that right leg out to the side, down towards the floor and forward, whoop, without spilling your water, and then back up to the ceiling. So a couple of big circles here with that right leg, keeping the leg straight the entire time and engaging the abdominals here as well. A couple rounds in the opposite direction as you're ready, taking that right leg through a big circle. Notice the abdominal engagement. Notice the breath. Good, as you're ready, we'll hug that right knee back in towards you. Then hug both knees in towards you again, squeezing the knees in towards the chest and rocking side to side. When you're ready for the other side, hugging that left knee in towards you. And again, 2 options, either straightening out the right leg completely or keeping the knee bent with the foot planted. Hugging that left knee in towards same side chest or same side armpit. And take some deep breaths through the belly here as you maybe introduce a bit of movement by rocking the knee side to side or taking a few circles through the hip. As you're ready, clasp the hands behind the leg, slowly press the heel toward the ceiling, and start to add some movements into the ankle once you get here, pointing the toes toward the ceiling and then flexing the toes toward the shin bone. Notice how that stretch feels through the entire back of the left leg. perhaps circling through the ankle a few times as well. And then we'll take those big circles through that entire left hip. So you can keep the legs straight, bring the arms by the sides, maybe grabbing a hold of the mat for a bit of support. Take that left leg out to the side, forward and down towards the floor, and up and around again. Active mobility here, so the core is engaged, the leg muscles are engaged as well. Opposite direction for a few rounds, staying steady with the breath. Good, then we'll hug that knee back in towards you. Hug both knees in towards you as you're ready. Placing one hand on each kneecap and bring the knees wide apart and back together in those two semicircles on each side. Noticing how the hips feel, if they feel a little bit more warmed up after that sequence. And as you're ready, you can roll over onto one side here and come on up to a seated position. So either a cross-legged seated position or sitting on the heels, whichever feels more comfortable to you. When you get here, rolling the shoulders up, back, and down, perhaps a few times. And then relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. Arms by the sides. Inhale, lift the arms up into the ceiling. Exhale, drop the right hand down, reach the left arm up and over here for a nice side bend. Breathing through the left side ribs. Inhale, reach both arms up again. Exhale, drop the left hand down, reach the right arm up and over. We'll try that one more time on either side. Inhale to lift. Exhale, lower right hand, reach left arm up and over, keeping the chest rotated open. Inhale back through center. Exhale, drop the left hand down, reach the right arm up and over. Next inhale will bring you back through center. Keep the arms lifted. We'll take the left hand across to the right knee, so opposite knee, and take the right hand behind you, perhaps onto the floor for a twist. Drawing the right shoulder back, opening up the chest to the right side here, keeping the spine lifted and tall. With the inhale, come back to center, reach both arms up. Exhale, go ahead and take the twist up to the other side. Right hand across to the left knee, left hand onto the floor behind you. Good, you can come out of the twist, back to center, and we'll meet in a tabletop position here. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. We'll take a few rounds of cat and cow from here, moving through full flexion and extension of the spine. With the inhale, drop the belly down, lift the sits bones up, chest forward. With the exhale, press the ground away, round the spine as you tuck the chin in. Inhale, drop the belly down, chest forward, shoulder blades draw together on the back. Exhale, create space between the shoulder blades as you round the spine and tuck the chin. A few more rounds with your own flow of breath here. Syncing up your own breath to your own movement. Good. With the next inhale, we'll meet back in a neutral position in tabletop. From here, let's try lifting the left knee up off of the floor and send the legs straight back behind you. Try not to rotate through the pelvis here. Keep both front hip bones aiming towards the mat. Engaging the glutes and the hamstrings of that back left leg. Engaging the core as well. And if you feel steady here, see if you can reach the right arm forward. So opposite arm and leg, balancing here. Engaging the abdominals, engaging the muscles that support the spine as well. We'll try a little bit of a core challenge from here. So staying in this position, but leaning the weight forward almost so that the hand is moving closer towards the floor out in front of you. And then leaning the weight back so that the toes behind you, the left toes, are almost touching the ground. It's almost like a teeter-totter, moving forward and back, engaging the abdominals. Good. When you're ready to be done with that, you can lower the hand down, lower the knee down, and rock the hips from side to side. When you're ready, we'll try the other side, lifting the right knee up off the mat this time, sending the leg straight back behind you. Engage the glutes, engage the hamstrings. Make sure the pelvis isn't rotated here. Both front hip bones are aiming towards the mat. And once you feel steady here, see if you can reach that opposite arm forward. Left arm reaches forward, right leg reaches back. Steady here through the breath. Then trying that little bit of a core challenge, reaching forward through the hand, and see if you can almost bring the hand towards the mat or towards the floor out in front of you. And then same thing with the right foot, leaning the weight back, try and bring the toes towards the ground behind you. Keep everything engaged as you do this, make it challenging. Good, then we'll lower the hand down, lower the knee down, and rock the hips out from side to side again. Bringing the hips back through center. Let's lift that left knee up off of the mat again, hugging the knee towards the chest, and step the foot in between the hands. So it may take a minute to set up here. You want the back leg at a wider angle, almost like a slide, and the front leg at a 90-degree angle or a little bit less. Hands are framing the front foot. Press the hips forward and lift the chest up. And it's okay if only the fingertips are touching the mat. Feeling that stretch through the back leg hip flexors. From here, we'll press that right hand down into the floor and reach the left arm up and towards the ceiling for a little bit of a twist here. So you're twisting towards the side of that front leg, opening up the chest. And we'll take some big circles with that left arm here. So circling it down towards the floor, up and around again. Opening up the chest as you reach the arm up. Maybe a few rounds in the opposite direction as well. Good, we'll lower that hand back down to the floor. From here, stepping that left knee back down to the mat. And we'll take a child's pose in between sides here for the lunge. So maybe bringing the knees out a little bit wider and pressing the hips back to the heels. If that doesn't feel comfortable, you can always bring the knees a bit more narrow. Pressing the sits bones to the heels, walk the hands out in front of you. Reaching actively through the arms, keep the elbows lifted up off of the ground. Notice how here you'll immediately want to breathe into the back body and let that happen. Breathing into the backs of the ribs, breathing into the low back. Keep the hips here in this child's pose. We'll walk the hands all the way over to the left side. As far as you can within your comfort level, reaching a bit further through the right hand. And as you reach further through the right hand, anchor the right sit bone down towards the heel so that you're really pinning and stretching that entire side body, breathing through the right side ribs, feeling that stretch through the side body all the way into the right side of the low back even. When you're ready, walk the hands back to center and then all the way over to the right side this time. Reaching a bit further through the left hand, anchoring the left sit bone down. Breathing through the side body, side of the ribs. Allow the weight of the head and neck to relax completely here. As you're ready, walk the hands back to center. Lift the hips up, back into that tabletop position here, and we'll prep for the lunge on the second side. Lifting the right knee up, step the foot forward in between the hands, and just take as much time as you need to set up for the lunge here. Make sure the hands are framing that front foot. The back knee, you might need to slide it back, shimmy it back on the mat a bit. Really sinking forward through the hips and lifting up through the chest, so you're feeling a deep stretch into the back leg hip flexors. The hip flexors tend to get really tight and short when we're sitting all day long. And then we'll do the twist from here as you're ready, placing the left hand down into the floor. Reach the right arm up to the ceiling, open up the chest, and take some big circles through that right arm here. Dropping the arm behind you, down towards the floor, in front of you, and as you open it up to the ceiling, open the chest. A few times in the opposite direction as well. Good, let's plant that hand down here to frame the foot. Tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee, and take as many steps as you need to bring that back foot to the top of the mat. We'll all meet in a bent knee forward fold here, bending the knees heavily, hanging forward over the legs. Taking this as a nice relaxed forward fold, you can completely release the weight of the head and neck and just feel that nice spinal decompression here. If you'd like, you can even grab a hold of opposite elbows, opposite forearms, relaxing the shoulders even more here, even gently swaying from side to side if that feels good. You can release the clasp on the elbows if you have it. Draw the fingertips up to the shin bones here, and we'll lift up through a halfway lift. So straighten out the legs just a little bit more for this one. Spine is parallel to the ground. Crown of the head reaches forward and tailbone reaches back. Feel that nice stretch through the backs of the legs. Good. From here, you can take the hands to the hip bones and lift all the way up to a standing position. Shaking out the legs, rolling the shoulders up, back, and down a few times. Okay, awesome. So, I'm not sure how much time we have left. I'd like to move into a little bit of a breathing technique. It's kind of fun, it's kind of silly. It's a nice stress relieving technique. It's called Breath of Joy. It sounds a little woo-woo, but I promise you it's super fun. So I'll demonstrate it first and then we'll get into it. So you'll be splitting up your inhales into 3 parts or 3 segments. The first part of your inhale, you'll lift the arms out in front of you. The second part of your inhale, you'll reach the arms out to the side. And the last part of the inhale, reaching the arms up overhead. So that's one inhale, but you're segmenting it into three parts. And then the exhale will be out through the mouth, and you'll sweep the arms back behind you and let it all out. So it's a really nice stress relieving technique. Feels a little silly. I'm not going to make my exhales too dramatic because of the mic, and I don't want to, do that to all of you. But you can join me whenever you're ready. Inhale, one part of your inhale, arms out in front. Second part out to the side. Last part up overhead. Exhale through the mouth. Inhale, arms out in front, to the side, overhead. Couple more times, getting into a nice rhythm with it. 2 more. Last one. Good. Rolling back up to a standing position. Let's take the feet out nice and wide here. All 10 toes are facing the long edge of your mat. You can bring the hands to kind of clasp out in front of you or hands to the hips. We'll be doing a side lunge from side to side, bending through one knee and straightening out the opposite leg, and then same thing to the other side. You'll keep the spine upright for this one, crown of the head reaching up to the ceiling. Bending, let's say, into one knee. You can start whatever side you'd like. Sinking as low as you can until you feel that stretch through the opposite leg, through the inner thigh muscles, and then switching sides. So this is another great one for active mobility. You're stretching the adductors, which are the inner thigh muscles. At the same time, you're challenging the quads, challenging the core, and the muscles that support the spine. Maybe getting a little bit lower every time you move side to side. Let's try one more to each side, keeping the chest lifted. Good, back through center. From here, we'll take a wide leg forward fold. Hands at the hips, start to hinge through the hips, folding over the legs in this wide leg position. Bring the arms out in front of you. Completely relaxing the head and neck. And notice how this feels in your body. Is it different than the original regular forward fold that we did with the legs more narrow? Where do you feel the stretch in your body? As you're ready, you can bring the hands to the hips and slowly lift back up through an upright spine. We'll come into a warrior two sequence next. So with the right foot, turn the toes so that they're facing the short edge of your mat, bending strongly through that front knee. With the feet, you want to heel to heel or heel to arch alignment through the feet. Taking the arms out to a T position, strong bend through that front knee. We'll flow through this with the breath. With the inhale, straighten out the front leg, reach the arms up overhead. Exhale, arms out to a T position, strong bend through that front knee. Good. A few more times, flowing with your breath. Making sure that front knee is aiming towards the middle toes. Anchoring strongly through the outside edge of the back foot as well. One more time here. And then we'll hold in this warrior two. Strong bend through that front knee, gazing over the front fingertips. Breathing through the belly, through the ribs. As you're ready, go ahead and straighten out that front leg and shorten the stance slightly so that it's a bit more narrow between the feet. From here, we'll reach forward through that front hand and drop the arm along the inside edge of that front leg as you reach the opposite arm toward the ceiling. Opening through the chest, really rotating that left shoulder back and that left hip back as well, as if you could be flush against a wall if it were right behind you. We'll take a non-traditional variation of this pose next. So what you'll want to do is keep that left hip drawing back, but with that right shoulder and right arm, reach it forward on a diagonal. So it might look like you're collapsing a bit through the spine, that's okay. As long as you keep that left hip drawing back, you're going to get a nice stretch through a low back muscle called the QL, and also the thoracolumbar fascia, which is this big piece of fascia in the kind of lower mid-spine and the lower back. Reaching that left arm forward on the diagonal, drawing the left hip back as you do this, feeling that deep stretch. As you're ready, take the hand to the hip and really slowly come out of this one. It's quite a deep stretch, coming back up to center, bringing the feet so that all 10 toes are pointing towards the long edge of your mat again. If you'd like, you can just stay here, maybe circle out the hips, or you can take a wide leg forward fold with me. If you're in the wide leg forward fold, take the hands to the hips, come back up through an upright spine, and we'll do everything on the second side. Taking that left foot this time, turning the toes to point towards the short edge of your mat. Strong bend through that front knee. Grounding down through the outside edge of the back foot. With the inhale, straighten out the leg and reach the arms up towards the ceiling. With the exhale, strong bend through that left knee, take the arms out to a T position. Flow with your breath. Last time. Good, and we'll all meet back here in this warrior two position. Strong bend through the front knee. Make sure it's aiming towards the middle toes, gazing over the front fingertips. Breathing through the belly and through the ribs. As you're ready, straightening out that front leg, shortening or narrowing the stance slightly. Reach forward through that left hand and then tip into triangle pose here. Left arm along the inside edge of the leg as you reach the opposite arm up toward the ceiling. Opening up through the chest and the torso. Rolling that right shoulder, right hip back. Good. From here, we'll come into that kind of wonky variation where you'll keep the hip drawing back, but you can allow kind of the shoulder to collapse forward as you reach that right arm on a diagonal. Really reaching through the fingertips as you draw the right hip back. When you're ready, take the right hand to the hip and really slowly come back up through an upright spine here, bringing the feet back in narrow, shaking out the legs, circling out the hips a couple of times. Maybe grabbing a sip of water. All right. So I'd like to get into one kind of challenging posture before we bring it back down to the mat and do a little bit of meditation at the end with Anzor as well. So many of you have probably seen a yoga posture called tree pose. Kind of looks like this. We're going to be doing a variation that's slightly more challenging. Feel free to do your own thing, but we'll be doing floating tree pose, or that's what I like to call it. I'm not sure if it really has a name. So what you'll be doing is the exact same thing as tree pose, but really anchoring in on the external rotation of the hip and lifting the leg up so it's a bit more active. So you can join me when you're ready, lifting the right heel up and externally rotating the hip, which means you're bringing the knee out, rotating the thigh bone out. From here, lifting the right toes up off of the ground. Engaging through the glutes, lifting upright through the spine. And you'll feel the quads, the hip flexor muscles as well really engaged through that right leg. Holding and balancing here. You can gaze at a point on the floor if you feel like you're about to fall over. And if you fall out of it, that's okay. Just come right back into it. And then dropping the leg down as you're ready, shifting the hips from side to side. And then we'll go ahead and switch sides as you're ready. With that left side, lift the heel up off of the ground. Externally rotate the hip, bringing the knee out to the side, rotating the thigh bone outward. And then see if you can lift the leg up off of the ground and hold it there. Challenging the core, feeling the glutes, especially the glutes on that left side, really engage here. Gazing at a point on the ground to help you balance and focus. Find your breath. And then when you're ready, we can lower that leg down. And once again, just sway the hips side to side or take a few hip circles. All right. So from here, we'll make our way back down to a seated position. And before lying down on our backs and doing a few poses there, I'd like to show you a little kind of stress relieving point on the body. You may know it. It's kind of a point for nausea, for headaches, for stress. It's in between the web of the thumb and the pointer finger. So with one hand, let's say the left hand, take the thumb and the pointer finger of the right hand, so the opposite hand, and grab the web, the space between the thumb and the pointer finger. Grab that space and go ahead and add some pressure to that space. You can relax the shoulders, just bring the hands to the lap. Might feel a little bit tender. applying a good amount of pressure to this spot. You can even try closing the eyes. Good, and gently opening the eyes, shaking out the wrists. You can clasp the hands together and make little figure eights with the wrist here. And then we'll try it on the other side. Taking the right hand, if you're following along with the lefts and rights, the thumb and the pointer finger of the opposite hand, grab in that first web space of the hand. Apply some pressure, and then allow the arms and the hands to relax to the lap. Notice if it's more or less tender on this side. Allow the muscles of the face to relax here as you keep applying the pressure to that spot. Good, you can gently open the eyes, shake out the hands here again, and we'll make our way down to the mat, lying down on your back, hugging the knees in toward the chest again, wrapping the arms around the legs. We'll come into a figure four position next. So what you can do actually is bring both feet back down to the mat, hug just the right knee in, and cross the ankle just kind of onto the lower thigh of the opposite leg. Pressing that right knee forward. If this feels like enough, feel free to stay here. If you'd like a deeper variation of the stretch, pick that left foot up off of the mat, weave the arms through, grab a hold of the back of the leg. The closer you bring the legs towards you while pressing that right knee forward, the more you'll feel the stretch through the outer glutes and outer hip muscles. Breathing through the belly and the ribs here as you feel the stretch, maybe even closing the eyes as we start to wind down our practice. When you're ready, you can uncross the legs, bring both feet back down to the floor, and gently rock the knees from side to side before we switch sides. And as you're ready for the second side, hugging that left knee in and crossing the ankle just onto the lower thigh of the opposite leg. Press that left knee forward. If you like the deeper variation, pick the right foot up, weave the arms through, clasp a hold the back of the leg, and stay with the sensation of the stretch through the outer hip and outer glute muscles. As you're ready, you can uncross the legs, bringing both feet back down to the mat again, rocking the knees from side to side. And if there's any last pose or movement that you'd like to do before our final resting pose for class, feel free to come into that now. You could take a little twist, allow the knees to fall over to one side and arms out to the side and hold there for a few breaths, doing that on either side. You could elevate the legs, just gently bending the knees, pressing the feet toward the ceiling, but not actively. You could even elevate the arms with this as well. This is great to help drain any excess fluid or swelling from the legs, from the hands. Or any movement that you'd like to do before we end class today. When you're ready for Shavasana or final resting pose, I'll give a few options. You could keep the knees bent here just like we did at the very beginning, either keeping the kneecaps pointing up to the ceiling or bringing the feet out about as wide as the mat and knocking the knees into touch. This is a really good option if you have low back pain or if you tend to really tilt forward through the pelvis and have too much of a curve in the low back. If you don't have any of those things, feel free to straighten out the legs completely and rest the arms by the sides. So take your pick, coming into it now. Hands on the belly or arms by the sides. Closing the eyes if you haven't done so already. Softening the muscles around the eyes. Relax the space between the eyebrows. Unclench the jaw. Relax the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. Drop the weight of the head down into the floor. Completely relax and soften the shoulders, the arms, the hands. Soften and relax the entire spine. Unclench the glutes and the pelvic floor. Relax the legs and the feet. Feel the entire body integrate into this silence and stillness. Slowly begin to deepen the breath. Invite some gentle movement back into the body. You could try rotating the head and neck from side to side. Maybe circling out the ankles and wrists. Or reaching the arms up overhead and extending the legs, pointing the toes, stretching through the front of the abdomen. Eventually rolling over onto one side and press on up to a seated position. Once you're here in a seated position, rolling the shoulders back a couple of times. Drawing the spine up tall. And place the left hand on the center of the chest and the right hand over top of the left. Tucking the chin in slightly And just invite a few thoughts of gratitude into your mind right now and into your heart. What are you grateful for in this moment? Bring the hands into a prayer position in front of the chest. The light in me honors and bows to the light in all of you. Namaste. Thanks for coming. I think we'll do a little meditation and then call it a day. Hi. Hello. Hi.
Where's the other cushion? Do you have it?
I think it's over there, just like on top of the camera there. Hi. I know.
All right. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And we're going to do a quick meditation. Meditation means different things to different people. Some people say it's so that you stop thinking altogether. Personally, for me, I use it as a tool so that I could exercise focusing on one thing at a time, because my mind goes in a million directions. I'm sure all of ours does that, things at work, at home, and it's oftentimes we get overwhelmed. So I find that it's a really good tool to get grounded and choose what you want to focus on and what you don't want to focus on. So we'll do a little bit of a meditation, almost exercise, and I'll guide you along. Haven't done this in front of people ever. Let's do this. So we'll start off with being comfortable. So I don't even sit like this usually. This is just because of the setup. I like having my back resting against something. So in a chair, against the wall, anything. You want to be able to relax your muscles. You don't want to be able to worry about sitting up straight, etc. Next, you want to take nice deep breaths and into your belly. Just nice, long, deep breaths. In and out. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. And just try to focus on your breath. Try to cover your breath as it starts, as you inhale, and all the way as you exhale. Now, as you try and focus on your breath, it's very common for a million things to pop up in your mind. Some of them are thoughts, emotions, memories, sounds, other senses. And what I like to do is an exercise where we focus on some of those senses. So, deep breath. We'll start with touch. Try and focus on parts of your body that are touching the ground or the mat or the chair. Feel the support of the ground. Feel your arms on your knees or anywhere else that you feel the sensation of touch. And then focus back on the breath. Next, we'll do smell. Focus on whatever you smell. It's a nice day, maybe someone's barbecuing next door. Maybe you smell nature outside. Just really try and focus on it. And when you focus, almost picture where that's coming from into your consciousness. And then let's go back to the breath. Next, we'll do sound, one of my favorites. Try and focus on a sound. It could be a sound nearby, like birds chirping. Could be something far away, like cars or kids playing basketball on the street. Try to find one sound to focus on and just stay there for a bit. Maybe jump to another sound and stay there. Keep your focus there for a little bit. And now let go and go back to the breath. Now focus on the breath once again. And now notice if besides your sensations, if there's any thoughts or memories or emotions that are trying really hard to get your attention. And realize that they're no different from sounds or touch. Your thoughts, emotions, and memories arise in your consciousness the same way that sounds, smells, touch, sight, everything else does. And this means that with exercise, you should be able to choose what to focus on and what not to focus on. So if you have negative thoughts, if you're overwhelmed, maybe you can let go of that and instead focus on something positive. Or go back to the birds chirping. Always works for me. Take some more deep breaths. Sometimes I like to count my exhales. 1, 2, and if I get distracted, I go to 0. No judgment, just start over. And that's always optional. And throughout the day, notice if your bellies are tensed up, because that's usually where a lot of the tension sits. So I notice I have to consciously relax my belly, and I get calmer. Let's take a couple final deep breaths. Now gently open up our eyes. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that.